Questions are now being asked of Eugenie and Beatrice, the two princesses, who I think were much more intertwined with their parents at nefarious activities than we have so far been told.
Absolutely. I've been saying that for months. No one seems to want to believe me. It's a huge PR campaign out there, but they certainly are very involved.
I believe you, Andrew.
It began with a sentence that should never have needed to be written down. Not a rumor whispered in palace corridors. Not a tabloid exaggeration. A documented line in a U.S. Department of Justice file. It will be myself, Beatrice, and Eugenie. A simple confirmation of who would be attending lunch. A lunch that took place just 5 days after Jeffrey Epstein walked out of a Florida prison in July 2009. And now, in early 2026, that sentence has become the focal point of a growing debate about two royal women who insist they are separate from the scandal that consumed their parents. Because this is no longer just a story about Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. It is about Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, and whether they were merely caught in the fallout of their parents' decisions, or whether, as one prominent royal biographer now argues, the public is being shielded from uncomfortable truths. For the better part of the last year, Beatrice and Eugenie have carefully curated distance, private careers, minimal public commentary, controlled appearances. The strategy was clear: step away from the chaos. Allow the storm surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Sarah Ferguson to rage without being pulled directly into it. But as of early 2026, that separation appears to have fractured. The catalyst? Royal biographer Andrew Lownie. Lownie is not a fringe commentator. He is the author of entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, published by HarperCollins in August 2025 after 4 years of research and more than 300 interviews. The Daily Mail described it as the most devastating royal biography in recent memory. The Sunday Times said it made Spare look restrained. His work is detailed, sourced, and unapologetically direct. And in February 2026, he said something that reignited the debate. They weren't 5-year-old girls when they were taken to see Epstein. They were grown-ups. There's a big campaign to say they are innocents caught up in the shell fire, but they're not. They're deeply involved. Those words landed like a detonator. Now, it is critical to clarify something immediately. No criminal charges have been filed against Princess Beatrice or Princess Eugenie. There are no formal accusations against them. Lownie's statement is not a legal claim. It is a narrative challenge. What he is questioning is the idea that the sisters exist entirely outside the story. And that is where this becomes complicated. Beatrice, now 37, and Eugenie, 35, are the daughters of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew, who was stripped of his titles in October 2025. Their mother is Sarah Ferguson, whose own name reappeared prominently in the newly released DOJ Epstein files. While neither sister is a working royal, both retain their HRH status under the 1917 letters patent, meaning their royal identity remains intact regardless of their father's fall from grace. The resurgence of scrutiny comes directly from the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Passed in November 2025, the legislation compelled the U.S. Department of Justice to release millions of pages of material connected to Jeffrey Epstein. December saw the first wave. Then, on January 30th, 2026, approximately 3 million additional pages were released, described as the final major production. Inside those files, according to multiple reports, Beatrice and Eugenie are mentioned by name hundreds of times. But the most striking detail is not frequency, it is timing. On July 27, 2009, just 5 days after Epstein was released from prison following his conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor, Sarah Ferguson arranged to meet him in Palm Beach. Emails released in the DOJ files show Epstein asking where she was. She replied she was heading to meet him for lunch at 12:30. When he offered to send a car, she declined but requested the address, writing the now infamous line, "It will be myself, Beatrice, and Eugenie." At that time, Beatrice was 20, Eugenie was 19. Both were adults. That lunch, documented and timestamped, now sits at the center of the controversy. For Lownie, it is evidence that the sisters were not distant observers. For defenders of the York daughters, it is a moment that requires context. Royal author Robert Jobson has argued that at 19 and 20, young adults often follow their parents' lead without interrogation. If a parent says they are visiting a friend, most people do not conduct background checks. Others point out that both sisters are now mothers themselves and likely view Epstein's crimes with horror. There is also the argument that Beatrice and Eugenie may not have been fully aware of the depth of their parents' relationship with Epstein. Royal editor Russell Myers has acknowledged genuine public sympathy for the sisters and suggested they may have been shielded from details. But even Myers has admitted that questions linger. Questions about proximity, questions about awareness, questions about whether, as adults, concerns should have been raised. And it does not end with that lunch. The DOJ documents reportedly include correspondence in which Sarah Ferguson discusses aspects of her daughter's personal lives in communication with Epstein. In one exchange, Epstein inquires about a redacted visitor potentially meeting someone in London. Ferguson's reply references Beatrice being in London with her father. Again, no crime is alleged, but the optics are troubling. Then there are the Christmas cards. DOJ records indicate that Andrew sent Epstein Christmas cards in both 2011 and 2012, each containing photographs of Beatrice and Eugenie. This detail stands in contrast to Andrew's 2019 BBC Newsnight interview, in which he insisted he had cut contact with Epstein after December 2010. The existence of those cards suggests communication continued, and while the sisters cannot be held responsible for mail sent by their father, their inclusion in that correspondence reinforces the sense that they remain symbolically present in Epstein's orbit long after his conviction. Publicly, Beatrice and Eugenie have remained silent. Reports suggest media platforms, including high-profile interview offers, have approached them. Yet neither has chosen to speak. Those close to Beatrice describe her as deeply uncomfortable with public confrontation, particularly when it involves family. Behind closed doors, however, insiders suggest there is strain. As more documentation emerges, Andrew's repeated assertions of innocence have become harder to reconcile with the record, and the removal of Andrew from Royal Lodge in February 2026, with a van seen departing the property, marked a visible sign of institutional distancing. Buckingham Palace has stated that King Charles stands ready to cooperate with British authorities in any ongoing inquiries connected to Andrew. Royal editor Russell Myers described this as a significant institutional moment, the monarchy publicly aligning itself with transparency rather than protection. And in that shifting landscape, the York sisters occupy an uncomfortable middle ground. Lownie's argument is not that they are criminals, it is that they are not passive figures. He is challenging what he calls a managed narrative, the idea that Beatrice and Eugenie are purely collateral damage, untouched by the decisions that shaped the scandal. He points to their documented presence at the 2009 lunch, their repeated mentions in DOJ files, and their symbolic inclusion in ongoing correspondence as evidence that the story is more complex. Whether the public agrees depends on how much weight is given to age, context, and proximity. Royal families operate differently from ordinary families. They exist within systems of advisors, security briefings, and reputational management. They are trained from childhood to understand optics and consequence. That reality complicates the notion of complete ignorance. So the debate narrows to one uncomfortable question: what did they know, and when did they know it? There is no definitive answer in the documents alone. What exists instead is a trail of references, timestamps, and appearances that prevent the sisters from being entirely absent from the narrative. Sympathy and scrutiny now exist side by side. On one hand, two women attempting to live private lives, raising families and maintaining careers separate from official royal duties. On the other, documented evidence placing them physically and symbolically near a convicted sex offender after his release from prison. No charges have been filed against Princess Beatrice or Princess Eugenie. That fact matters. But reputational questions do not require legal proceedings. They require perception. And perception is shifting. The monarchy has historically relied on distance. Distance from controversy, distance from scandal, distance from individuals who threaten institutional stability. The DOJ document releases have reduced that distance dramatically. Whether Beatrice and Eugenie remain protected under the umbrella of public sympathy or face sustained scrutiny depends on how the story evolves. For now, what remains is documentation. A lunch confirmed by email, names repeated in official files, Christmas cards sent, silence maintained, and a royal biographer insisting the public is not being told the full story. The question is no longer whether their parents' decisions damaged the House of York. That is established. The question is whether the daughters can remain separate from that damage. Were they adults who should have asked harder questions? Or were they young women following their parents into situations they did not fully comprehend? The DOJ files have ensured that debate will not disappear quietly. And as the monarchy recalibrates in real time, the York sisters stand at a crossroads between sympathy and accountability, a place far more complicated than either side would prefer. What do you think? Should the focus remain solely on Andrew and Sarah, or is it fair to examine the roles Beatrice and Eugenie played in the events now resurfacing? Let me know your perspective.